A bus riding on flowers through the flowers. When the passengers make room, whisper bride and groom, that's us on a bus. Two in one seat, love on every detour. You can be sure that I'll show you how it feels to honeymoon on wheels with two in one seat. Slow down, Route 27 is the nearest thing to heaven I know. Speed up, start hitting 60 and my heart will jump and thump. Oh, oh, what a bump. Us on a bus, kisses intimating that we're waiting till it's time to light the lamps. Hit the tourist camps, that's us on a bus, yeah.
We're on the air, coming to you live from our little adobe home in Los Lunas, New Mexico. It's the Desert Home Companion, where we've got sunshine all day, moonshine all night, and it ain't gonna rain no more, no more.
The old man stood out in the storm, his shoes were full of feet. Well, it ain't gonna rain no more, Lord, it ain't gonna rain no more. Out of the world in the old folks there, it ain't gonna rain no more. Oh, mosquito, he fly high, mosquito, he fly low. If that old mosquito ever lights on me, he ain't gonna fly no more. Oh, it ain't gonna rain no more, Lord, it ain't gonna rain no more. But it gets there just the same. Well, it ain't gonna rain no more, Lord. It ain't gonna rain no more. Now the world, the old folks tell, it ain't gonna rain no more. No more showers. A man laid down by the shore, and by the shore he died. Yeah. Now at the coroner's inquest, they called it suicide. Oh, it ain't gonna rain no more, Lord. It ain't gonna rain no more. Now the world, the old folks tell, it ain't gonna rain no more. The old cow throwed her tail in the air and she ran right through the barn. Well, it ain't gonna rain no more, Lord. It ain't gonna rain no more. Now the world in the old folks tell, it ain't gonna rain no more.
Welcome to the Desert Home Companion. Tonight's show is brought to you by the American Epilepsy Society, introducing their new chain of restaurants, the Seizure Salad, coming soon to a Petty Mall near you. We also want to acknowledge that we are situated on the lands traditionally owned by the Isleta people. We honor your stewardship of the land and are grateful to you, but we're not giving it back. All right, so we've got a great show for you tonight. And we've got some stories, we got some quizzes, the ever popular quizzes, some music quizzes, some language quizzes, we have a couple of love stories for you and some interesting and historic music. So a few notes about the show. First of all, it's nice to see everybody here. Thank you all for coming. Stay muted if you can to keep the background noise down. If at all possible, please show your video. It really helps me to, it gives me some feedback. It's nice to see your face. So if you got a camera, let's see that shining face of yours. If you, after a certain piece, if you'd like to show your appreciation, you can clap or wave or something. You'll be muted, so I can't hear you. But that's always nice to get a little bit of feedback. So feel free to do that. And after the show, once we have the closing music and closing credits, stick around. We'll have a chance to visit with each other, which is a very fun part of the evening. So if there's any technical details or technical problems, you can chat to Tech Linda, and she'll figure it out for you. And there's a note from Tech Linda right now. And let's start off the evening with the news. As you know, tonight is election night. We got some big news. And up to the minute news here, November 8th, 2022, it's election night. And we have the up to the minute news for you for the local and national elections. So first of all, New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham is holding a significant lead over her Republican challenger, Vladimir Putin, who swayed voters with his promise to annex Colorado. The race is tight in New Mexico's Congressional District 2, a district traditionally going to the Republicans, but whose boundaries have been recently redrawn. Challenger Gabe Vasquez holds a narrow lead over incumbent Yvette Harrell, whose turnout has been severely limited by the write-in campaign of independent Vladimir Putin. Finally, here in the local news for Los Lunas, our dog catcher, our incumbent dog catcher, Diego Baca, has been soundly defeated by his challenger, the newcomer, Vladimir Putin, who finally has something to celebrate after an entire year. In the broader news, this week, King Charles III remains unchallenged in his position as king, and Queen Elizabeth is still dead. But wait a minute, we have some incoming news bulletins here. Aha, all right. Last minute news here in the news today. For those of you who have gotten tired of hearing me say that Queen Elizabeth is still dead, I have some good news. She's back. That's right, the royal astrologers have confirmed that Her Majesty has been reincarnated and has taken up residence once again at Buckingham Palace, just not in her usual place. God save the Queen, especially from storks. All right, that's the news for the evening. You know, I've been thinking what an amazing era we live in when people with severe disabilities who in other times would have been marginalized have tremendous opportunities. So it wouldn't be unusual, if it hasn't happened to you already, that someday you walk into the optometrist's office and you find that you have an optometrist who is a person living with blindness. Hello, I'm Dr. Anderson. Please have a seat over here. I'm not sure I need to sit down. Now, I know you may feel uncomfortable at first with the blind optometrist, but I was first in my class, and I've been practicing over 10 years. It's true that I haven't seen any patients yet. I've had lots of them, just haven't seen them. That's my little joke. How many fingers am I holding up? I'm over here. Oh, okie dokie. Now, read the third line from the top for me. I can't see anything. That's not good. How about the second line? I can't see anything. Top line, that should be easy. Well, maybe if you turn the lights on? Oh, sorry about that. There. Now, how about that third line? Okay, it's P2EZMQ. Well, that sounds reasonable. Now, I'm going to have my dog take a look at your retinas. Oh, boy, how do they look? One bark means you're good. I'm going to do a manual exam now. Looks like you've got a small round mass of soft tissue here on the ventral surface. Doctor, would you mind getting your hands off my chest, please? Oh, sorry about that. Well, you're all set. Just see our secretary to make an appointment for another checkup in 6 months. Actually, I'm the UPS delivery person, and I just came in to get your signature on this package. Well, if you aren't my patient, then where is my 10:30 appointment? I don't know, but it's the deaf guy sitting over here and signing at you furiously. Good luck. There you go, an age of opportunities for all, regardless. All right, so our next piece is a story, and some of you have heard this story before. I did it in the first show, but our opening music, Ain't Gonna Rain No More, No More. Our grandpa used to sing that song, and the way I remember him singing it is, ain't gonna rain no more, no more. It ain't gonna rain no more. How in the heck can I wash my neck if it ain't gonna rain no more? So it inspired me to write a story, and I thought now I'd like to share that story again. For those of you that haven't been here, it's kind of our theme song for the Desert Home Companion, because we've got sunshine all day, moonshine all night, and it ain't gonna rain no more, no more. So this story is called No More, No More. It was still early in the day, and old grandpa decided there was plenty of time to do his laundry. He grabbed his 2 tattered t-shirts off the back of a chair and sniffed them. Yep. He set them into his laundry bucket and sprinkled them with cleaning powder, rubbing it in until his hands got tired. Then he took the t-shirts outside and shook the powder off. Clean as a whistle, he thought, smiling at his good work. He stepped back into the cabin, carrying his t-shirts and singing quietly to himself. Ain't gonna rain no more, no more. Ain't gonna rain no more. How in the heck can I wash my neck if it ain't gonna rain no more? He remembered the days when he would have washed his shirts in water. No more, that was for sure. It cost a good day's work just for a badly needed sip of water. And he was too old to work like that very often. He stuck the clean t-shirts on a different chair and sat down in his rocker to catch his breath. Back and forth, he stretched his legs and sang in a near whisper, oh, ain't gonna rain no more, no more. Well, that's the chores for the day, he thought. He pulled out his pocket watch. It had his name on it. To Jake Turner, best miner in West Virginia. Congrats on retirement. He hadn't actually retired, just ran out of steam, too old to keep digging and blasting. It had been hard work, but those were good days. Plenty of water, baths, drinking, gardens, even swimming. He looked out the window at the too hot sun baking the dust. Time to head up to the lake. The lake belonged to the rich folks, and it was swarming with guards with rifles. Those guards got paid well to protect the rich folks' water, probably $1 gallon a day salary. Old grandpa remembered when he got paid in dollars. You could buy a lot of stuff with dollars in those days, but by gum, you can't drink $1, can you? The guards kept most folks away from the lake. Poachers, eco-terrorists, general troublemakers. But they didn't mind old grandpa coming up there every day to sit in the shade and watch the water, humming and singing and remembering the old days. As long as he didn't try to drink the water or put his hands or feet in it, he'd learned that the hard way. He pulled his weary bones up out of the rocker and picked up the little basket that he had prepared carefully yesterday. Out on the porch, he glanced way down the valley below him. The village lay there, dry and quiet, like cheese melted between the 2 branches of the dried-up river on either side of it. Then he glanced far up the valley above his cabin. He could just make out the dam that held the rich folks' water behind it. He remembered the time when the water ran down the valley, watering his gardens and fields, and then rushed down to the village far below. The village had been green in those days. Old Grandpa grasped his basket and began the long uphill walk to the lake. As his creaky legs carried him along, he sang quietly to himself. Ain't gonna rain no more, no more. Ain't gonna rain no more. How in the heck can I wash my neck if it ain't gonna rain no more? He finally came to the dam and then hiked up past it to his usual shady spot along the edge of the lake. Across the lake was a guard station, and he could just barely make out the guard waving at him. It was probably that girl. What was her name? Sally? Sarah? She had binoculars and could see him clear as day. Some days she hiked over to make sure he was okay, but not today. From his spot, he could look up the valley and see the whole length of the lake. And he could look down the valley and see the dam and everything below it, including his little place and the village at the bottom of the valley. Sometimes he wished he could stay here by the lake forever. Sometimes he thought this was where he'd like to die. He lay down in the shade and rested. Ain't gonna rain no more, no more. Before long, the sound of the water got his bladder twitching. He couldn't very well go right here in plain sight and where he'd contaminate the lake. He knew of a hidden spot right down at the base of the dam at an angle where no one could see him, a blind spot. He picked up the basket and, keeping his eyes on the uneven ground, made his way down to the dam. He double-checked his hidden spot and relieved himself. An old man still had his pride after all. Then he reached into the basket and pulled out an old familiar stick and worked it into a crevice that he had widened during the past months. And he attached a long string to that stick, trailing the string along the ground, making sure it didn't overlap itself. And he took out his lighter and set it to the end of the string. He had 10 minutes. Plenty of time to make it back to his shady place by the lake. When he got there, he sat down at the edge of the water. He glanced at his pocket watch. 2 minutes left on that smokeless fuse until it reached the charge. He positioned himself so he could watch that dam burst, watch the beautiful water rush down the valley, carrying greenness back to the village. A minute left. No time for the guards to stop him now. He dipped his hands into the lake and raised them to his head. For the first time in a very long time, he washed his neck. There you go. No more, no more. So, you ready for a quiz? I got a nice quiz for you here. We got 2 quizzes. First quiz is a language quiz. Now, Randy, you should be good at this because you took Latin in high school. So this is a Latin quiz. Here you go. So when you get the answer, you can unmute yourself and just speak up. We'll see who wins the contest here. First question. This person goes to the refrigerator to get the expensive jar of the finest Russian sturgeon roe that they had been given, and they found that there was nothing left in it. What would they say in Latin? No takers? They would say caveat emptor. All right, we'll move along. Next one, number 2. When John Wilkes Booth shot a carnivorous dinosaur, what did he shout in Latin? Any takers? Unmute yourself. 3, 2, 1. He shouted, "Sic semper Tyrannosaurus." All right, we're getting into the swing of this. All right. You probably remember Nathan Hale Nathan Hale was a young American patriot who snuck behind the British lines during the Revolutionary War to spy. He was caught. He was hung the next day. And you probably remember his famous words. He's reputed to have said, "I regret that I have but one life to give for my country." In fact, he was simply paraphrasing something said by Julius Caesar's wife. Can you provide what she said in either English or Latin? Three, two, one. This is, boy, that's a tough quiz. All right, here you go. Share the screen for this one. There you go. The original quote was, "If I've only one life, let me live it as a blonde." That was Julius Caesar's wife, or in Latin, "Si unum tantum vitam habeo, vivam eum ut flava." All right. So you probably knew that subconsciously, but were afraid to say it. All right. Here's an easy one. What did Julius Caesar say when a friend asked him how many eggs he'd had for breakfast?
Et tu, Brute.
Fantastic. All right. 1 point for Michael Murphy. Et tu, Brute. Okay. Who said, what famous contemporary person said in Latin, quid solicitus sum? Quid solicitus sum? Here's a clue. Solicitus would mean worried. Alfred E. Newman, what me worry? Quid solicitus sum. All right. And now we got another visual one. This is going to be tricky. It's a visual. It's a famous thing that Julius Caesar said. You've got to watch fast. There's 3 parts to it. You've got to watch this fast. We'll play it several times so you can catch it. And here we go. Keep your eye out. It's fast. You want to see it again? Let's see. I can't see anybody. Any takers? One more time.
What was the question?
This represents a famous saying by Julius Caesar. You got one more shot at it?
Yeah, it's like Weedy Willy Winky or something like that. I came, I saw, I conquered.
Weenie, Weedy, Weechy.
Weedy Willy, Winnie, Witchy.
Weenie, Weedy, Weechy. I came, I saw, I conquered. Fantastic. That's a point for Randy. And now, finally, you know, English has many, many words from Latin, so often it's relatively easy to figure out what something says. See if you can translate this quote. Any takers? You're probably going to have a hard time with this. The answer is, oh no, Billy, see or go, 40 buses in a row.
Ha! Ha!
All right, that is our Latin quiz. So now let's try something that'll be a little bit more fun and easier for you. We've got a musical quiz. Remember some months ago, we had a contest where you hear the beginning of a song, sort of like Name That Tune. You hear the beginning of a song, you've got to identify the song. Ready? Here's our first one.
In Napoli, when love is king, when boy meets girl, here's what they say.
All right, any takers on that one?
That's Amore.
There you go. Fantastic. Hilda, I thought you might get that one.
I was about to say it, but he beat me to the punch.
Okay, that was my cousin Ron. Yes, here we go. For everybody else's sake, the
In Napoli, where love is king,
That's amore.
meets
That's amore.
here's what they say.
When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore.
all right, fantastic. All right, here's your next chance. The beginning of the song is this. Any takers? You're muted.
La Bamba. La
All right.
Bamba.
Yep, there you go.
I had myself on mute. Oh boy, I better keep myself off of mute.
Okay.
You can just hit your space bar.
Para bailar la bamba, para bailar la bamba se necesita una poca de gracia para mi patilla, arriba y arriba.
All right. The next one is a very, very interesting one. It's not the version that you're used to, but if you listen carefully, you might tune into what it is. This is a very historical, interesting piece. Listen carefully. Any ideas? Yes, yes. Listen to this. This is fascinating.
A Wimawak.
So here's some interesting background on this. The song Lion Sleeps Tonight, which was originally called Umbube, something like that. M-B-U-B-E, Umbube, was written by a South African janitor in the 1920s. Pete Seeger explained that the song is a folklore about the sleeping king Shaka, warrior king of the Zulus. Shaka the lion, who heroically resisted the armies of the European colonizers, is supposed to not be dead, but only sleeping, and will one day awaken and return to lead his oppressed people to freedom. Another reviewer wrote, "The thing I find most amazing is this, that falsetto melody you hear at 22 seconds is probably one of the most recognized melodies to Western music listeners. It was improvised by Solomon Linda. So one of the most recognized melodies to Americans and Europeans was improvised by a musician born on a labor camp in South Africa." Interesting, eh? All right, next one. See if this rings any bells.
Pinball Wizard.
was a young boy, I played the silver ball. From Soho down to Brighton, I must have played them all. But I ain't seen nothing like him in any amusement hall. That deaf, dumb, and blind kid sure plays a mean pinball.
All right. I was just wondering if Tommy grew up to be an optometrist. And our final piece, it's too bad John Friend's not here tonight. Hilda, any guesses?
No one to talk to, all by myself. Ain't misbehaving. Ain't misbehaving.
No one to talk with, all by myself. No one to walk with, but I'm happy on the shelf. Ain't misbehaving, saving my love for you, for you, for you, for you.
Great, a point for Hilda. That's our quiz. Thank you for participating in that. All right. I'm going to skip one thing here, and I'm going to go right into two love stories. And let's see here. I had a skipping over sort of a funny one, but we'll do that the next time. Two love stories, and then we've got a we've got a musical interlude of a little video, and then a final story, a final Thanksgiving story. So our first love story, I hope I can get through this. It's called Not From Sadness. They had been together almost 65 years. So many joys, so many sorrows, so many quiet hours in each other's arms, safe from the tumult of the world. And now she lay in their home, in their bed, day after day, fading inevitably away. At first, the sorrow of watching her dying had been too much for him. But then a memory came back to him. He remembered how, long ago, he had once told her that he hoped to die before her because he couldn't imagine going on without her. But the moment he had spoken the wish, he had seen what it meant. She would then have to go on alone. And he had vowed never to leave her without his support. Now it filled him with warmth to know that he was here to help her, to comfort her, to simply be here with her. And so it was not from sadness, but from love that he held her hand and tended to her needs all day and much of the night. And it was not from sadness, but from love that he realized he had to do something. She was in so much pain now. It was long past the time that her suffering should have ended. Every day her eyes begged him to let it be over, and yet somehow she was not able to die. So it was up to him, his final gift to her. He had a plan. Today he had called the afternoon nurse and lied to her. He had told her she didn't need to come until 3. He'd made up a convincing reason. The morning nurse left at 2. That gave him an hour. The morning nurse had been hesitant to leave until her replacement arrived, but he had found a way to convince her. When she finally drove away, he sat down on the chair next to his wife's bed. "Let's do something special today, my dear," he said. "Oh," she barely whispered, "I can hardly do something special." She smiled faintly. "I have a grand plan," he beamed. "We'll live it up a little. Let me help you into your chair. We're going outside into the beautiful sunlight." "Are you sure it's okay?" she asked, her forehead wrinkling with worry. "We have nothing to lose, my darling. He gently raised her up to a sitting position on the bed and then moved her over into the wheelchair, sitting her down and then swinging her legs over. Here we go. As they reached the bedroom door, he stopped, checked to see that her gaze was elsewhere, and grabbed a small bag that he had hidden away at the back of the dresser. Out the front door and down the ramp into the yard, he wheeled her slowly, caringly, chatting with her about the things that they were seeing on their adventure so far. He pushed the chair out along the little sidewalk that stretched out from their front door, and halfway along, made a right turn, struggling a little to push the chair through the newly trimmed grass. "We're here," he said, taking her hand. "Shall we lie on the grass together? Like we did when we were 23 at the lake?" She coughed roughly, taking a minute to catch her breath. Yes, she remembered so clearly. Surely it could not have been more than a day or two ago. It was not simply the lying there together that she remembered, as much as the falling in love in the warm green sunshine. "Can we really?" she asked, her eyes begging him to say yes. "Yes," he said. He reached down and put his arm around her torso. She was so terribly light now. He raised her from the chair and lowered her carefully into the warm, fragrant grass. "Shouldn't we have a blanket?" she asked. "Not today, I think," he said. "Wouldn't it be nice to have the grass touch us, my dear?" He lay himself down next to her, so close that there was no space between them, and they could feel the warmth of each other's bodies. "Close your eyes now, my dearest darling," he said, his voice wavering. "I have something for you." She closed her eyes. He reached into his bag and pulled something out. "Keep them closed," he said, fumbling as his hand trembled. Then he reached over and took her arm, raising it slightly, and brought the object toward her. "You can look now." She opened her eyes. "Oh my, wherever did you find that old wedding picture?" She reached out toward his cheek, but her strength faltered. He bent closer so she could touch him. "I'm going to put this over here," he said, placing the picture on the grass just next to them. "Now we have our own little altar, and we can rest." He helped her lay her head back down on the grass. They lay there together, side by side, hand in hand. "Do you trust me, my darling?" he said, gazing up into the vast blueness. "Yes, I always have." "Then go along with me no matter what I do. Go along with me no matter what I do, and I promise I will never lead you astray." Even as he said it, he wondered just for a moment if he was doing the right thing. For a brief eternity, they lay there together silently. "Do you love me?" he asked. "I do," she whispered. "Do you love me?" "I do," he said. And then he died. And she followed him into death with a heart full of trust. The afternoon nurse arrived exactly at 3. She found the two of them lying on the grass, motionless, lifeless, and bathed in sunlight, with their wedding photo standing as a memorial beside them. And she wept, not from sadness, but from love. Thank you. Thank you. This next love story is called Forever Love. It's very different, a very different kind of story. Forever Love. Carolyn settled down into a lotus position on the warm grass and sighed. Just days ago, the quad had been filled with thousands of Vietnam War protesters. But today, here in the middle of campus, it felt quiet. And she really didn't mind the dozens of barefoot, blue-jeaned couples spread across the lawn talking softly. She liked having other people around. A guy in a tie-dyed t-shirt approached her. She smiled at him. "Hey, I'm Jimmy. Can I join you?" "Sure. I don't think I've seen you around before." "Nah, I kind of lay low, but I've noticed you before, and I'm glad we get a chance to hang out." She lay down on the grass, and Jimmy lay down a few feet away from her. They both drifted into silence. "It's so nice to feel my body," she thought. Her long black hair moved with the wind. The grass tickled her legs. Her t-shirt caressed her bare skin underneath. She loved the feeling of naked freedom. She wondered for a moment if Jimmy was watching her. She propped herself up on her elbows, letting her mind drift with the snowy clouds suspended in the brilliant blue above like vast, still egrets. "Gosh, Jimmy, don't you wish this could last forever?" "Yeah, like permanent summer vacation. I think I'm going to change my major to that. PhD in summer vacation." She chuckled. "But actually," he continued, "I was reading a story about the future where they invent a process to keep people's brains alive forever in some nutrient salt solution." Carolyn sat up. "That's horrible." She gave him a little punch on the arm. "Who would want to spend eternity as a pickled cauliflower in a jar?" "Hey, they weren't pickled. I mean, the people that took care of the brains gave them everything they could want, like really pleasant and stimulating input." "Oh, so we could be lab rats forever?" The disappointed look on Jimmy's face made her feel sorry she was putting down his story. "Never mind. I'm sure some of the brains were perfectly happy. So if everyone is a brain in a jar, who's taking care of them? Aliens?" Jimmy perked up. In the story, they were just young people who were still in their mortal bodies, and they took care of the brains as best they could. And when they were really old, like 40, they got to be put in jars themselves. Carolyn imagined a small group of people her age spending their young lives dragging their feet through endless dark corridors of technical equipment, feeding disembodied brains. Wouldn't that be a really gross job? No, these weren't just brains. They were the essence of amazing people with amazing experiences and personalities. Real personalities. I bet some of the caregivers loved the people they were helping, really loved them. Well, what do you mean by help? Other than making sure the saline solutions are kept up and the happy thoughts are fed in? Well, the caregivers could do so much more than that. They could help the people relive old memories from the person's happiest times. And they could help make new memories for them. Just think, times like this, over and over, and it would seem completely real. The brains would forget that they didn't have a body anymore. She resisted the urge to explain how horribly inhuman that sounded to her. What was real was a real body on real grass under a real sky with a real lover. What about real feelings, Jimmy? When we lose touch with feelings, isn't that what makes people start wars and drop napalm on other human beings? She waited a couple minutes for Jimmy to answer, but he sat silently looking around and fidgeting with his stringy blonde hair. He was definitely more of a thinker than she was. It was one of the things she was starting to appreciate about him. He could put things into clear words, and that helped her understand the world. Right now, though, he seemed so lost, so distant, on the other side of a glass barrier. But she knew she could reach him. "Come here, Jimmy," she whispered to him. And as he turned to her, she softened in the warmth of his shy smile. "Kiss me." She lay back on the grass, her eyes half closed, sensing his body moving toward her, and then his lips on her forehead. "Carolyn, I'll love you forever." She felt her smile suddenly tighten into a frown, and she sat up. Jimmy pulled back to look at her. "What's wrong?" "You've said that before. You've said that before. You've brought me here before. Carolyn, try not to think. Please, let's just enjoy this together. Here, this grass, this campus, this year. Please don't think. But it was too late. I remember, she said. The scene faded. The darkness grew. Jimmy disappeared. Yes, she had seen him before, in all the most beautiful places in her memory. So many times, so many variations. As she drifted back into forgetfulness, she whispered to herself, I'm glad I'm in the hands of someone who loves me forever. A little spooky. That one's a little spooky. All right, here's a musical interlude to cleanse the palate. Musical interlude, it's also a love song.
Asked me how I knew my true love was true. I, of course, replied, something here inside cannot be denied. Someday you'll find all who love are blind. When your heart's on fire, you must realize smoke gets in your eyes. So I chaffed them and I gaily laughed to think they could doubt my love. Yet today my love has flown away. I am without my love. Now laughing friends deride tears I cannot hide. Though I smile and say, when your lovely flame dies, smoke gets in your eyes.
I don't even really know who that is. Anybody know who that singer is? Wonderful voice. Hilda, there's a song for you to do.
Oh, I know. I was thinking it was Judy Garland at first. Kind of sounded like Judy Garland.
I don't know.
Did you hear me, Jay?
Yeah, I could hear you. Yeah. I don't think so, but I don't know.
At first she sounded a little bit like Judy, but I don't know.
Yeah. I'll have to look it up.
Taylor.
Well, what's that?
Elizabeth Taylor.
Oh, is that who was it? It's Elizabeth Taylor?
I'm just guessing.
It sort of looked like her, but I don't think it is. We'll have to.
I thought it looked like her. I thought it looked like her.
It sort of looked like her, but not quite. We'll figure it out.
I didn't know that she was a singer, though.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Love that voice. All right. Our final story is a Thanksgiving story. Some of you may have heard this one before, but it's my classical Thanksgiving story. So enjoy. It's called A Family Thanksgiving. Everybody knows we all come from different backgrounds, right? Our families all had different ways of doing things, different traditions, right? So there's no reason I should be so nervous right now, looking over at my new date, Ursula, sitting across from me, so self-composed, about whether I'm holding my soup spoon the right way at this snooty restaurant. Okay, my folks were not the most refined or educated. We were kind of rural, I guess you could say. I know Ursula is very tolerant of diversity, as open-minded and caring as she is. So why am I staring at my own fist, grabbing the soup spoon like it was a crank on a tractor, while she's holding her spoon delicately with some configuration of fingers that I can't even figure out, especially that little finger? Hey, I did earn some points for ordering a decent wine. I just asked the waiter for a recommendation and nodded along like I knew what he was talking about. To me, all wine tastes pretty much the same, which is at best like cat pee. Not that I've tasted cat pee, but I can spot the smell at 1,000 yards, especially if it's from a wild cat. And I've made huge progress in my eating etiquette, really. I mean, back home, we would just lower our heads into the food and bite down hard, real hard, because sometimes the food was still alive. But somehow I'm not sure I should talk to Ursula about my progress. Can't quite put my finger on why. Let's just say it's an instinct. So I keep quiet. So, Remus, she says, looking up at me as she puts her spoon down on that little plate under the soup bowl. I'm sure she's following some rule of etiquette that I can only guess at. What are you doing for Thanksgiving next week? Wow, loaded question. Am I supposed to invite her to something? I'm kind of open. I was thinking of going to my folks. She's looking at me in a weird way that I don't quite get. I think she wants me to say something. I blurt out. So, gosh, are you doing anything? I mean, do you want to maybe do something together? Yikes, now I've done it. I'd love to go to your folks' place with you, she beams. It's a holiday after all. I'll get to meet your family. You can tell so much about a person from their family, can't you? She's smiling at me now and reaches out for my hand. I feel like I'm navigating a field full of steel traps and just escaped one. Never mind that she just invited herself to meet my folks. No way out of it now. Well, my family aren't exactly city folks, I explain. I mean, I don't know if you'll feel comfortable with them. Of course I will. Folks are folks. Well, yeah, I guess that's true. What should we bring? What do you usually have for Thanksgiving out there in the country? Is it the same thing we have in the city? Well, I say, we usually take down a deer. Take it down from where? I'm not sure what she means. Don't worry about that. I'm sure you'll like it. It's fresh. Great. What about cranberries? I love cranberries. No, I can't say we usually have those. Good. Then I'll bring them. I pick up Ursula at 10 on Thanksgiving morning. It's a long drive out to the folks' place. Plus, I'm nervous and rather get this over than sit at home pacing the floor and making myself crazy. In the car, we talk about lots of meaningless little pleasantries. I have to say, Ursula is easy to talk to. No matter what topic I'm ranting about, she rolls right along with it as though nothing in the world could be more fascinating. I hope she'll get along with my folks as well. 45 minutes from the city, I pull off the road into my usual spot. We're here, I announce. Ursula frowns, but only for a moment. Well, this is the country, isn't it? She pops up cheerily. I don't see the driveway. I laugh. Driveway. That's a good joke. I take her hand and lead her across the road and into the woods. Just in case she was serious about the driveway thing, I say, the whole idea is to not leave a trail, right? Wouldn't want people to find you. It takes about 15 minutes of picking our way carefully through the woods to get to our place. I point to the cave opening, just visible through the brush up ahead. Home sweet home. I hope you like it, I say. And I really do hope so. I'm starting to feel nervous, even though there's no real reason to, right? Ursula gives me a strange look. Not sure what it means. She takes my arm, so I'm guessing and hoping that everything's still okay. We enter the cave together. Now, I imagine that if I visited Ursula's family, they would immediately come up to me, the stranger, in order to make me feel welcome. And it doesn't work that way in my family. I haven't seen my folks for a while, and we have some family greeting rituals that just have to be carried out. even if it means the new person is left on their own for a few minutes. My mom rushes up to me, rises up on her hind legs, places her front paws on my chest, and begins licking my face ferociously. It tickles so badly that I'm laughing like a maniac. Whoa, down, down. I can barely get the words out. Of course, I'm scratching her ears and rubbing her head at the same time. I look over at Ursula. She's biting her lip. Is it to keep from laughing? When my mom finally drops to all fours, Dad bounds over and nearly knocks me off my feet. He's a rough and tumble kind of guy. We roll on the floor for a while, growling, biting, and on my part, laughing. Once he has me pinned down with the skin of my neck in his teeth, he lets me up and gives my left ear a quick licking. I brush myself off and walk over to Ursula, who seems to have her eyes closed, like she's thinking of something. Mom, Dad, this is my friend Ursula. Both of them creep over slowly toward her. Ursula is clutching my arm. I think that means she likes me. Mom lets out a low, slow growl, but comes close enough that Ursula could pet her, though for some reason Ursula does not. Dad approaches her from behind, his ears still flattened a bit, and gives her a good thorough sniffing. I'm glad he's becoming comfortable with her. Friend, not food, I joke in English, and then translate into growls just to lighten the tension. Ursula has let go of my arm. To tell the truth, her grip was beginning to hurt. So you were raised by wolves? She asks, though I can tell it's more of an observation than a question. She's one sharp cookie, I'll tell you that. I just smile and gesture around at the obvious. Could you tell your folks that I have to use the bathroom? I'll be right back. Ursula hurries to the mouth of the cave while I point my nose in her direction and then pantomime lifting my leg. My mom growls softly to tell me she understands. Ursula has only been out of the cave for a minute or two. My parents are suddenly jumping up and shoving their snouts into the air. The way the fur is rising on the back of their necks, along with the low growl and bared fangs, tells me something is seriously wrong. I stick my meager nose into the air and even I can smell it. Grizzlies. 2 of them, if I'm not mistaken. My God, and Ursula is out there. My flabby hands and puny teeth are useless against most any animal. Even my parents would not dare attack a grizzly, let alone 2. It would be suicide to try to rescue Ursula. Protect the family, sacrifice the stranger. It's the law of the jungle. But tears are pouring down my face and my stomach is twisted in a knot. Too late. A ferocious volley of roars outside mixed with what sounds like human screams tells me it's over. And if this isn't horrible enough, the bears aren't leaving. My nose, along with the fact that my parents are backing up against the rear wall of the cave, anxiety causing saliva to pour through their bared fangs, tells me that the grizzlies are coming toward the cave. I move back to stand with my folks. They're all I have left. I see them at the entrance, 2 giant grizzlies. They're pushing something in front of them. It's Ursula. She's standing up, clearly still alive. Her eyes look a little wild and she's out of breath. She must be trying really hard to keep her composure, not show her fear. That's so wise of her. I think I love her. Too bad we're all as good as dead. Remus, she pants, trying to catch her breath. I'd like you to meet my folks. I had them track us. I wanted it to be a surprise. The smaller of the grizzlies pushes a battered sack out in front of her. It's filled with small, round, red objects. I sniff. They're cranberries. There you go. That is the show for tonight. And I've got some great music to close off the evening, kind of tying into some themes that we already heard. I think you'll enjoy this. And then please stick around and we'll have a chance to visit.
Je
la la minute. You will let me something. La la la.
Move we move it. 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 We move it.
Move it.
and more.